Hey friends, welcome back to LlamaMamaKayla's Yarn Tube. So today I'm showing you this chunky tube sock, slipper sock that I've made. I had a video the other day where I made some slipper socks and they're just tube socks with a 4-weight yarn and they turned out great. I've been wearing mine, they've been washed, I've been wearing them some more, so they're great socks. I really love those. So I wanted to make some in a chunky yarn and see how that would do. I had not made them in a chunky yarn before. So I found that I had some Premier Chunky Bloom. It's a self-striping floral print. So that's the way it would, I believe that's knit, showing the example, and that's the way it would kind of knit up. But we're crocheting, and so this particular yarn is, the design of the yarn is a little bit wasted on this, but it still makes a pretty color, design, whatever. So I'm not really going for the floral effect. I'm just using this yarn because it's soft, chunky, squishy, and I had 2 balls of it. So that's why I'm using it. Now, it will take 2 balls of this to make a sock. I had a little bit left over, and so I'm taking it and putting it into another project, and the little bit that's going to be left over from this will go into that same project, because it's not really a whole lot left over, but anyway. So anyway, it's 109 yards on this, and this is a bulky 5-weight yarn, and this yarn calls for an 8mm hook. So I've never made the tube socks with a chunky yarn before, so I got an 8 hook and got busy trying, making a sock. No way. That was turning out way too big, huge, just, was not going to work at all. So, looked around. I don't have a 7 hook. I used a 6.5 a little bit, and I still kind of wasn't just thrilled with that. But anyway, I ended up trying different ones, and I settled on the 6mm hook. So that's what I used for this. And it is so soft and just chunky, and I can't wait to get the other one made and get them on my feet. Okay, so this is a self-striping yarn. Now, even if you use a 4-weight yarn or a bulky yarn or whatever, the fun part of it to me is the socks being totally different because they're not going to work up exactly the same, right? So even my 4-weight yarns that I make with this, I just love how they turn out, and it's 2 different socks that go together. Anyway, so I'm just going to push this up here above us, and I'm going to get busy making my second sock, and I thought I would just bring you along with me. I know many of you probably already watched the other sock tutorial, so this is just, something extra. Alright, I'm going to make a slip knot. Okay, and I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, I'm going to slip into that first chain that I made and just slip stitch through. Okay, and I'm going to chain 3. And this chain 3 counts as my first double crochet, so that's 1. Now I'm going to go back into the center of this ring here and make a double crochet. So that's 2 double crochets now, because that's the first. That chain is number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay, so in all I need 12 double crochets. So that's number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and if you feel like you're running out of space there, just grab them and just pull it apart. And let's see, this might be my number 12. I'm going to count mine to make sure. Oops. I'm going to redo that one. Okay, I'm going to count and make sure that I do have 12. Counting my chain 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and that is my last stitch there. So I'm going to just place a stitch marker in my last stitch. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 that we originally did. I'm going to slip stitch. Alright, and that was row 1. So row 2, I'm going to chain 3, and that counts as my first double crochet. So for this row, we're going to do 2 double crochets in each stitch. So that's 1, and we're going to go back into that same place right there and put another double crochet, so that counts as 2. Now do that in each stitch all the way around. Put 2 double crochets. This is our increase row. You know, it may be curling up like this. That's okay. We're actually going to turn it so it curls the other way. See, I started talking and I forgot to put 2 in that stitch. Glad I caught it before I finished and had to tear them all out though. And guess what? I did the same thing over there. So I do need to pull some of them out. No, I did 2 there. Let me see. 2, 2, 2, 2. That one only did 1. I do that. My mind wanders and I just forget what I'm doing. I know I'm not the only one that happens to. Alright, we're almost done. I'm going to recount these just to make sure, because I keep catching myself here. Okay, so we put two, let me start that over. We put two double crochets. Did I say singles earlier? I'm so sorry if I did. You can obviously see I'm doing double crochets, but we put two double crochets in each stitch all the way around, starting with our chain and then a double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So yay! I ended up with 24. And slip stitch into the top of your chain 3 that we started with. Alright, and that is our increase right there. So now we just work up. So what we do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and on this row we're just going to put one double crochet in each stitch all the way around. That counts as 1. So we just go the next and just add a double crochet. So just do that all the way around in every stitch. Now for my socks here that I did, this one right here, I did 24 rows of double crochet. And then I will meet you back after I have done my 24 rows and you have done your 24 rows. We will come back and look at our socks and see what we're going to do from there. This is so easy to make. If you have a yarn and a hook, you can do this. And remember, you can make these out of worsted weight yarn or chunky yarn. You can make them out of, you know, some kind of yarn cake. Just whatever you want to do. And I think the fun part of using a self-striping yarn or some kind of print yarn is that they, you know, work up totally different but with the same colors and still go together. So I like having fun house socks. Alright, so I'm going to meet you back up when I get my 24 rows done. See you in just a bit. Okay, I'm almost finished with row 24. So just remember, every row is a chain 3 and 23 double crochets, and counting the chain 3 is 24 double crochets. And I did my socks 24 rows. You can do yours ever how many rows you want to do them. If you want to make them shorter or taller or whatever, that's your choice. Just a couple of more double crochets here. And if you want to use a stitch marker on your last stitch per row, you know, that would be handy so that you know that's your last stitch. Like this is my last stitch right there. If you're new to crochet, you might think where you slip stitch right here is a stitch, but it is not. So if you always put your stitch marker in your last stitch, you'll know. And like, even though I'm finished, I'm just going to do this anyway. I'm just going to put that in my last stitch there, and then slip stitch into the third chain on that chain 3. Okay, now we are going to do a little bitty border around the top, just a single crochet around the top there. So I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to come right back into that same stitch there and just do a single crochet. And if you're new to crochet, you might want to put a stitch marker in that so you'll know that this is not where you slip stitch, this is where you'll slip stitch back into in the end. So it never hurts to use stitch markers. They're there to help you. And don't ever be, you know, like embarrassed if you need to use a stitch marker, anything like that. Stitch markers are our friends. Okay, so now I'm just going around in each stitch doing a single crochet just to finish the sock off. Now if you wanted to ever how many rows you're doing, say if you were doing yours 24 rows, like oh sorry, I didn't see, I can't talk and do all this at the same time. Say if you were doing the 24 rows like I am, and say you wanted to start back here and you wanted to bring this in some, you could you know, do a different stitch. Or I actually forgot what I was supposed to say. I might think of it. If you wanted it to look like a cuff more and be real stretchy, you could do, I can't think of what I'm trying to say. Like you would do on a sweater sleeve around your wrist. I can't think of what it's called. Oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I should have kept my mouth shut. I cannot think of that. Anyway, just ignore all that. Okay, so here I am, almost to the last stitch. Okay, so I'm going to take my stitch marker out of the last stitch there. Okay, that is the last stitch. So now we need to slip stitch into the first single crochet. And I just want to show you, in case you're new to crocheting, I just want to show you this. Because I did not, excuse me, I made this mistake lots of times when I first started crocheting, just because I couldn't see and understand what I was doing. So this was the last stitch, but you have this, and you have this right here where we slip stitched over. And then remember, we chained one, then we did a single crochet. So you don't want to mistake any of that for where you slip stitch at. You want to slip stitch in your first single crochet. So that's why stitch markers are good sometimes. If you're new to crocheting and you don't understand all this right here just yet, you will eventually be able to spot that. But in the beginning, it's kind of hard to understand and see that. So I'm going to go in that first crochet that I did, first single crochet, slip stitch into that, and now we are done. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of tail that I can weave in. Fasten that off. Okay. And I'm gonna get my yarn needle. Okay, and I'm just going to go inside the sock here, and I'm just actually going to come up through the inside there, and then just start weaving this in. And before I pull through, I always make sure you can't see my needle on the outside, because if you can see the needle, then you're going to see your yarn. And you don't want it to be too tight, so go ahead and just kind of pull that so it's not just making it too tight there, it's still relaxed. And I'm just going to go back through. And again, I'm going to pull it and make sure it's not tight. And then just go back again. Okay, and then I'm just going to clip it off. That's good. Alright, so now we have our slipper socks. And this is how much yarn was left. So it almost took a whole skein for each sock. So here we are. My 2 socks here, and I'm going to pull this back up some. I really like these socks. I like that they match and go together, but yet they don't look the same. I just think that's really a cool effect on them. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye guys.